Hello boys and girls and welcome back to yet again another video today. Oh man, today what we're going to be talking about is actually some post UMG DC changes. Some of these changes don't necessarily have to do with DC, but it is technically post DC. So some of these teams weren't at UMG DC, but they should have been. But either way, if they weren't, some of these changes and a lot of the ones from the EU especially don't necessarily have to do with DC just recently happening. So I just want to get that out of the way. Obviously, a lot of these teams weren't there, but it is technically after DC. So I think I've spent enough time, kind of explaining the title. So there's a weird trend right now going kind of on Twitter, and it's like everyone is making changes to the roster, but not a whole lot of people are telling that they're actually making changes. So it's like, oh yeah, we're gonna run with two. I left this team and stuff like that. It's like, then why didn't you put it on Twitter? It's like, well, everyone should have known. It's like, how are we supposed to know if you don't put it on Twitter? Like that, this is the main avenue for experiencing people's lives, is on Twitter. That's where the Call of Duty community thrives at, and when you're not posting stuff, we don't know, including me. So I'm just putting that out there. So let's do better at that. So we have a lot of European Call of Duty stuff to talk about. So I'm going to put these in sections so it's not like out of order and whatnot, so you guys know. So I'm going to go with NA first. I'm going to save the bigger stuff for the end. Not that one team is bigger than the other, but just the amount of major news that comes from one outweighs the other. So starting off, NA stuff, post UMG DC. First of all, VQ, aka Vanquish, has actually announced that they are going to disband. So Vanquish is actually at UMG DC, and they ended up placing 17th through 20th, which is definitely not the placing that they were hoping for, that they imagined for their roster. And I've been casting over VQ for a very long time. I've known the organization for a very long time. They've had a little bit of new rosters here and there, but this was a really good team for them, and it is really unfortunate with certain situations that have come about them. For those who don't know, GodRx is actually banned from MLG, so we can't do certain things. I'm not going to get into why. It's none of my business, but still, they just don't know how to move forward. I believe Pemby and Profizi are looking to be a team of two. I don't think it's going to be on VQ, however, but this team is just kind of falling apart right now, and I feel kind of bad for the VQ guys. They've been my dark horse for the past two tournaments, at MES as well as at DC, and they've shown some really good signs. They actually ended up beating TK in the pool play that I casted over. Very solid team, and I really do hope good things for all their players, whether they play on the same team or not. I've heard rumors and I've seen people talking about how GodRx is going to Stunner. I don't know. Like, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know if that's for certain, and I doubt that they know for sure either. So we'll see what happens with that, but just to let you guys know, Vanquish has officially disbanded. GodRx, Demise, Pemby, and Profizi are all kind of looking for teams right now. So next thing we have is actually a little bit of speculation. So I've heard people link me tweets. Not heard people link me tweets. I've seen people link me tweets and also say certain stuff that relates to Vex's roster. I know Vex had actually had a stream the other night with their main CEO and stuff on MLG.tv, which I don't know if anyone watched that or not, but I watched a little bit of it, and it was kind of interesting. I wasn't sure where they were coming from. I never heard them announce this, but there's a lot of rumors going on that Holler and Proto have left their team. So I'm not sure if that's for certain. I know Holler and Prado have played on the same roster a couple times in the past, and that's going to leave Fastball and Profit looking for two. If this is for certain, I'm pretty sure at least one of them is gone. From what I've heard, it's mostly Holler. I've heard Holler has left like a couple times. People ask me why I haven't tweeted out. It's because I don't know. Like, Vex hasn't really made an announcement saying, hey, these two guys have left their team. So like I said, this isn't for certain, so don't go and say like, oh my gosh, I can't believe Holler and Proto left Vex, because I don't know for sure. But there's a lot of people saying that it's happening, and there's a lot of people saying that it's not. I don't know. So I'm just letting you guys know that it's out there and that it could happen. If you've seen anything, you'll kind of relate back to this video. Much like Vex, we have another team who actually made changes, and another team who was at DC, which was E6. I casted over E6 once, and it went to Game 5 with TK, and they just kind of got wrecked in all the games that they lost. So another team who actually, I believe, went 0-4 in their pool was Vex, and also E6. So both of these teams who apparently are making changes, this one for sure, E6 has announced, well, Felony has really announced that he's leaving the team. He said the team just wasn't working out with him, and to be honest, 100% with you, Felony, over the games that I watched, the games that I casted over, Felony was the guy who was leading E6. Now, you might say, oh, well, Felony's leaving E6. He must have been the problem with the squad. I don't know what the problem with E6 is. They've had one event, and they've already said, you know what, this roster doesn't work out. Do I agree with this decision? I actually do. Now, I actually agree with this one. I think after going 0-4 in pool play, and then I believe they finished, what, like 17th to 20th overall in, placings for DC, that might allow for a team change. Now, if you saw a little bit of success here and there, I can understand, let's ride it out. Let's go for another event. But the events that we have left, we have Season 3 playoffs, we have Worlds, we have like DreamHack, which, you know, is like, I don't know how many teams are going to go there. I think there's an EGL event. So basically 2 NA events left, 2 main events that players are going to be going to from the NA, and it's like, well, E6, what, they're not a Season 3 team. We got to prepare for Worlds, which is like in a couple months, a couple weeks, weekends from now. So there are teams already trying to prepare. So with E6 making this change, I'm actually pretty supportive of this one. So right now, E6 is consisting of General, Proofy, and John. Looking for one. Felony also, I believe, has announced that he's is going to announce that he is joining a team. He hasn't said what team he's joining. I have no idea what roster it could be on. It could be anyone that you could probably predict. Yeah, I'm sure that if you named out a couple rosters, you'll probably get it right. So like I said, I'm actually kind of supportive of this decision from E6. I do hope that they have success moving forward, and whoever they pick up, they're going to need to be a very strong player, because Felony was a very solid player for them. Just want to point that out. Now, all the other matches they played in, he could have done absolutely terrible. I don't know. But from what I've seen Felony, he's not known as a great player, but he really does a lot of stuff that's not noticed. So I'm just going to kind of point that out there. Just, you know, a little bit of reference, I guess you could say. Now for some EU talk. Now, we have a lot of stuff to talk about from the EU. The NA stuff was, it's not a massive amount, but there's still a lot of EU stuff that has happened, European Call of Duty things that had transpired. So first thing, I think almost as soon as the event was over, like a day later, Epsilon.eu announced that they're no longer going to have a team for the continuation of Advanced Warfare. Now, this is a really big deal to me, because Epsilon is known, I'm gonna be honest, I think Epsilon is probably the most known organization in, you know, purely EU play. They're the most known organization. You could say it's TCM, it could be Millennium, it could be Vitality. Epsilon is the most known brand in European Call of Duty. Back in other titles, it was just like, honestly, between 2 brands. It was between TCM and it was between Epsilon. Whoever lost, the other team would end up winning. So it was like back and forth between these 2 teams. TCM moves to the NA. Epsilon doesn't really know what to do. They stick in the EU for a little bit. Then they make their own NA team. And now, with only a couple of events left, the continuation of Advanced Warfare, Epsilon EU says, you know what? We're coming to an end. We're not going to continue for Advanced Warfare. Now, in their kind of twit longer, their basically article on their website, which I'll link down in the description, you guys can kind of check it out. They do announce that they will be continuing for Black Ops 3. They're just taking a break for right now. So let me know in the comments your guys' thoughts about this, because this is very interesting, and this is, to me, not a good thing. You know, their roster wasn't the best, I'll give it to you. It was Swanny, Shane, Reedy, and Zero. So that's going to leave them all looking for a team. Well, we'll talk about Swanny in a minute, but all those 3 guys, like I said, Shane, Reedy, and Zero, all looking for a team right now. So with this change, like I said, I don't think this is good. I know the EU scene, excuse me, has grown a lot through Advanced Warfare, and I've loved the amount of teams that have come out. You know, their Gfinity Pro League as well has grown, whatever, you know, division you could say it really has, and I'm very happy for them. But Epsilon EU, this is just not, I'm not happy about this, to be honest with you. And I know they still have their NA team going, so don't worry if you're an NA fan of the Epsilon squad. You still have, you know, you have Parasite, you have Nagafin, those guys over on Epsilon NA, they're still going. But the Epsilon EU team for right now no longer exists, and it will be coming back for Black Ops 3. So kind of unfortunate news to hear. I really wasn't happy about that, which at the time left Swanny, Shane, Reedy, and Zero to be looking for a team. Now this leaves for some interesting talk, because now with Swanny on the market, and he actually posted on Twitter the other day, he was like, you know what, I actually have a team, I'm going to be announcing it soon, and I'm also very interested still in playing competitive Call of Duty. Now, Swanny was previously on the NA team, which is now where Parasite kind of filled in for him. Now he comes over to the EU, he plays for Epsilon EU, that team is disbanded. So where does Swanny go from here? You know, what teams could he go to if he's announcing he has teams? Obviously, Epsilon EU no more. What do we have? We have, you know, teams like Infuse, we have VWS, we have Hyper Games, we have a lot of teams. So while Swanny's making his decision, there's a lot of other teams making plays. There's a lot of other players that want to join Swanny. They want to be on a really good roster. What team is this roster going to be a part of? Well, I'm glad you asked, my friend. Changes on other rosters are happening to maybe kind of prepare for what Swanny's going to do. You know, if Swanny joins this team, I want to join this team too. You know, I want to join the team with Swanny. I want to join the team with, you know, whoever he decides to go with. And that leads to some certain changes that went down. Now, I'm going to read these off. All of these kind of were announced at the exact same time due to twit longers from players saying, hey, I'm leaving this team to join this team. So we kind of figured out all this information at the same time. However, I'm going to say it in like a storyline of how it actually turned out. So what happens? Millennium. Things are happening with Millennium. So basically what goes down, Mad Cat and Joe say, you know what, Millennium, we're not happy with our placing with you in our what was the Premiership Division. I think they placed around 5th through 6th. You know, we're going to leave this team. We're going to leave this roster, and we're going to go over to Vitality. And we're going to go over to Vitality with Swanny, and Tommy, because Swanny decides, you know what, I'm gonna join Vitality too. I've played with Tommy in the past. We've been on Epsilon, we've been on a bunch of different rosters. We're a very solid unit together. Swanny and Tommy on the same team. Millennium realizes, hey, you know what, I kind of like being on. I want to join. I want to join Vitality. That's a good team. So Mad Cat and Joe leave Millennium to go over to Vitality as well, making the new roster for Vitality Swanny, Mad Cat, Tommy, and Joe. Which means the previous players who were on Vitality, which were PD, LXT, and Urban, peace, guys. Peace out. We got some players coming in here. Sorry, guys. We make way for Swanny, Mad Cat, and Joe, because this is the new team right now. Okay, so you guys gotta back up a little bit. So a massive team from the EU decides to form under the name of Vitality, which is insane. So there's a lot of free agent players that are on the market. There's Shane, there's Reedy, there's Zero, there's like Quicker, there's, I don't know if I said Reedy or not, I think I already said Reedy. There's PD, LXT, there's Urban. There's so many really good EU players that are out there that could possibly form a team as well, but this squad is good. Like, this is a really, really good EU team. This is a phenomenal European team, okay? So how this is going to work, as far as like Bals, who's going to run SMGs, because everyone knows Swanny and Mad Cat are obviously Bals, as well as Tommy. So who's going to roll that out, I guess you could say. And I believe it was Tommy's tweet longer, he said how it's going to work out. So what's going to happen is that from now on, the Bal play is going to be Mad Cat, and it's also going to be Swanny, and that Tommy is going to be switching from a Bal to an SMG. Now, he used to run an SMG, I believe. I don't know the exact titles, but I know he was primarily a Bal player. He's primarily an AR player, and he's going to switch back to the SMG along with Joe. So this is going to be pretty interesting. You know, a little bit of switching roles here. I don't know how the team's going to work out, but with some major events coming up, they are going to have a lot of teamwork to do. They're going to have to work out their chemistry. They're going to have to work out how their lineup works. And obviously, switching from one gun to another might not seem like a crazy transition, but playing under a certain gun where you're used to certain gunfights, you know, hanging back, looking at long ranges of sight, calling out a certain way, you now have to transition to a more quicker speed. And in Advanced Warfare, it's constant action, so you're going to have to be ready for that. So this new Vitality team is looking very, very solid, and I'm looking to see how they're going to do heading into certain events. So now, what they announced is that they're going to be looking to compete at, obviously, the Worlds, which is coming up, I believe, like October, the middle of October, and also DreamHack, which DreamHack announced that they're going to have a new event as well. I believe it's like a 20 or 25K. So those are the two main events that they're looking forward to moving as well at. I'm not an expert in the EU like I am in NA. I'm not saying that I'm an expert at all, but I know a lot more about NA than I do about EU Call of Duty. I mean, that's just a known fact. Like, I'm from the NA, I study NA, I'm a caster for NA. I don't know too much about EU, but I know that this is a very good team. This is probably one of the best teams that we've had come from the EU in this title. I'm really looking forward to how this team is going to work out. They can definitely be a factor when it comes to these NA tournaments coming up. So with Worlds, you know, kind of in the back of our minds right now, be watching out for Vitality. I'm going to be doing my best to watch their streams. I know Tommy streams, I believe, on Twitch. I'm going to be watching their team scrims as well, and trying to figuring out how this stuff is going to work. So there's going to be a lot of team changes still happening in the EU. There's rosters to be made as well as in the NA also. So we got what? We got Vex, we got E6, we have we have Millennium now. We have a lot of different rosters in the whole Call of Duty community looking for players, and with Worlds coming up, there's going to be a lot of that transition period going down. So guys, make sure to follow me on Twitter if you guys haven't already. I do tweet out roster changes when they do happen, and as soon as they do happen, and occasionally I do make videos about it to kind of keep people informed. So I'm going to have actually a really cool video in the next couple of days talking about a certain play that's going to be pretty interesting as well. So guys, if you guys aren't already subscribed, make sure to do so, and also make sure to leave a like if you guys did enjoy the video. Have a great day, and until next time, peace out.